Hello everyone, my name's James Folino and I'm here to bring you another edition of the Gold Coast property and auction results. This week we're going to be covering the week of Monday, March the 21st up until March the 27th. Like we do every week, we'll go through some of the auction results and clearance rates Australia-wide and then we'll hit down to some properties. One thing I just want to mention was last week we did have a look at the auction results and we did find some discrepancies. So today I'll probably just go into that a little bit more about what we found last week. So interesting part about it all is that for the majority of the time that I've been doing these reports, I've been looking at these auction results and clearance rates. And these are the ones that are derived from realestate.com.au. After reading some articles in different financial reviews in different newspapers, I started to see that some reporters were presenting different statistics. So I delved a bit further and I started to have a look at and compare what the clearance rates are and auction results with at realestate.com, and then we saw also with CoreLogic. So look, let's just go back to sales volume. Every week I talk about sales volume. Victoria this week has ramped right up at 2,300 properties. So it's getting a lot of volume and a lot of movement. New South Wales has dropped back below 2,000 at 1,700 and Queensland in third place at 1,500. I think sales volume speaks a lot about the market, if people are in the market or people are not in the market. So potentially some people have been saying Sydney's pulling back. I don't think that's happening with Melbourne because Melbourne, there's still a lot of volume. There's still a lot of transactions happening. When we start to look at clearance rates, REA has got the clearance rates for Victoria at 85%. And they did this on the back. If I go into Victoria, if you just have a look, they've based their clearance rates on 1,000 or so auction results. So they had 878 sold on the 1,000 results, but there was actually 1,700 scheduled auctions. So where are these other 700 results? If you go to CoreLogic and you have a look at Melbourne, it's got total auctions at 1,600, so not at 1,700, a little bit less, but they've got results for the majority of them. 1,360 is the results that they've got. Bring in Melbourne, not at 88%, but at 69%. So in saying that, the websites are showing different figures, so it's very hard for us to make a full judgment. So sometimes when we look in the media, just be aware of that. We go back to Queensland now for realestate.com, and you can see clearance rate was 77%. Queensland still doesn't have the amount of auctions that Victoria and Sydney are having. So they've got 116 auction properties that sold at auction on 150 results, giving 77% clearance rate. But there were 400 scheduled auctions in Queensland. If we go to CoreLogic and we have a look at Brisbane, they've got results for a lot more of them and bringing Brisbane down to a clearance rate about 4 or 5% less than what realestate.com was saying. So just want to say, when you look at statistics, don't always think that they're true and correct. They might be correct, but again, we need to look at where they're getting their results from and how much of the results they're reporting on. So that's enough for that. Let's go into it for today. And what we're going to do is we're going to go straight into it, and I'm going to show you a couple of houses first. So we've got this one. This was at 10 Alicia Street in Southport. This was a 3-bed, 1-bath, 2-car home, 496 square metres, residential B land, so it could be developed in the future. And this one sold 800,000. The next one we're going to look at is this one here. This was at 235 Goldmine Road in Ormo. This was a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car home, 481 square metres, double garage, single level, very nice, brick veneer, very new on the inside. And this one here sold 695,000. We're going to move just not too far from Ormo. We're going to go to Pimpama. We've got this one here. This was at 64 Fountain Street. Looks quite small from the outside, just with the single garage there. But this was a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, 1 garage and 1 car space. So deceptively big on the inside, ready for a family to move into, large family. And this one here sold at 600,000. You can see from the floor plan that it's got 5 genuine bedrooms. We're going to move on. We're going to find this one here. This was at 31 Forest Avenue in Mollendina. This was actually a street record with the sale price. This was on a big block of land, 800 or so square meters. It had solar, it had a water tank. Could do with a bit of a spruce up to the landscaping and just to clean it up, and maybe some removal of those trees to open this property up. And this one here sold 712,000. The next one we're going to look at is another house. This was at 174 Currumborough Road, Ashmore. It was on 678 square meters, so big block of land, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1-car home, in need of some work on the inside. So someone would need to come in there and spruce this house up. But this was great buying, under $1,000 a square meter at 640,000. We're going to move on to some units. The first one we're going to look at is this one here. This was at, let me just confirm. Yeah, this was at 5/74 Universal Street in Pacific Pines. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath with 2-car accommodation townhouse. It had a body corporate of 83. So we need to mention body corporates. Body corporates are starting to really elevate. It did have a rental return of 420. By the time you take out the body corporate, the rental return was only 340. So just be aware of that with body corporates and rental returns. Purchase price on this one was 470,000. The next one we're going to look at is this one here in Southport. This was at 5/18 Rose Street, Southport. This was a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car apartment, so quite big as well. This apartment here was rented at $440, so similar to the townhouse in Pac Pines. This body corporate here was $90 a week. So again, your $440 rent minus that, it becomes about $350 rent, and then you take out your expenses from there. So, and this one here sold at 455,000. That was at 518 Rose Street. The next one we're going to look at is this one here. This was in 14/26 to 28 Monaco Street in Surfers Paradise. This again was a 2-bed, 2-bath, 1-car. So one less bedroom than the one previously in Southport, and the same in Pacific Pines. Body corporate here was $99 a week. Estimated rental return is about $450 to $500. So same kind of rental return as the other ones, but because you're coming into that tourist area, even though you got the less bedroom, it's the same rental return. But again, you've got to take out that $100 body corporate. This one here sold for $415,000. Next one we're going to look at is this one here. This was at 1/41 Watson Esplanade, had a rental return of $500 a week. The body corporate wasn't advertised, but I'd say it'd be around that $70 to $90 mark. It was a 2-bed, 2-bath with 1 car, and this sold great buying. This was only sold at $335,000. The next one we're going to look at is this one here. So we had a look at some houses under the mill. We had a look at some apartments and townhouses. Now we're going to move into a couple of farms. We've got this one here. This was at 108 to 112 Kilmore Drive, Tamborine. It had a shed. It had dams. It had water tanks. It was a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car home. It was on 3.5 acres. So anyone wanting that country lifestyle retreat, this was it. Nothing needed to be done to the home, ready to move into. And this one here in Tamborine sold for $981,000. We're going to look at another farm, slightly bigger land on this one. This was at 166 Wongawallan Drive in Wongawallan. This was on approximately 5 hectares, so just over 10 or 12 acres. This one here was a 3-bed, 1-bath, 2-car home, brick veneer. Again, ready to move into for someone. Beautiful views over Moreton Bay and Stratty. And this one here in Wongawallan sold 1.1 million. So again, someone that wants that country retreat about an hour from the Gold Coast, that's where it's at. The next one I'd like to show you is this one. This one here is interesting. This made it just because of a property that made it last week. So last week I showed you this property here. This was purchased maybe 12 months ago as a house. The person pulled the house down, chopped the block into 2, and they've sold that front block off for 1.26 million last week. The reason I'm showing you this house, because this is Broadbeach Waters and Mermaid Waters aren't too far apart. And this house was a similar kind of house. This was on the corner of a canal, big block, corner block of land. The land size here was over 1,000 square meters. The block potentially could be chopped, and if sold, you may be able to get yourself a waterfront block at a very reasonable price. So it was just showing someone that maybe now with developments, you need to look outside the square, purchasing a house like this, knocking it down, chopping the block into two, selling the front off, and giving yourself a 500 square meter waterfront block at the back. The front property or the front block of land is probably going to sell for $1 million, and you end up with your waterfront block for, just over 800,000. So something that if people are interested in doing, this is a way of doing it without having to pay the price tag that people are paying now. And the last property we're going to look at is this one here. This was at 109 there's a couple more. So now we'll look at a few development sites. This was at 109 Turpin Road, Labrador. Big block of land, 961 square meters, suitable for townhouses. It was sold at 1.275 million. So very rentable and livable now. As a townhouse site, depending what they allow on this, potentially there could be 5 to 6 townhouses on this, meaning that the purchaser may be paid about that 200,000 a site. So good buying there in Labrador. And then the last one that we're going to look at for today is this one. The reason why I wanted to show this is because we've been looking at land for developers, and we've been talking about prices hitting 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 a square metre. This block here in Broadbeach Waters at 2797 Gold Coast Highway in Broadbeach was 1,200 square metres of land. It sold for 4.3 million, which equated to about a per square metre rate of 3,600. So of all the developments on the site that have been selling recently, this one came in at one of the lowest rates per square metre. So very good buying on that block of land for that developer. So that is the property report for this week. I hope it's been of interest. I will keep delving into the clearance rates between Real Estate Australia and CoreLogic. So just be aware, if you're looking at one or the other, there is discrepancies there. So again, best to look at both to then make a better judgment with where you're feeling the property market's going. If you need any assistance with your property purchasing or selling, don't hesitate to give me a call. Otherwise, until next week, good luck, and I'll see you then.